सवाल कोई पूछना हो, any questions or observations as usual? Yes, Nadeem?
I've got a couple of questions, if it's alright. In Surah Baqarah, the Quran, or the chapter starts off, this whole sequence of things that happens. First of all, it starts off with the fundamental declaration that this is the perfect book. And then it goes on to the story of Adam and Eve. And then it comes to completing the story of Adam and Eve. It then starts to discuss the children of Israel, the Jewish history. I'd like to ask, can you explain the sequence? Why is it straight afterwards, from the time of Adam and Eve, the very next issue, that starts with the children?
This is a very interesting subject, and a subject which should not be discussed here offhand, because I have already worked on this from the sequence point of view. Also, Muslim in his commentary has spoken particularly on the subject of sequence, not only the internal sequence which we work in verse, but also the interrelationship of surahs and surahs, chapters and chapters. So this is one aspect of the commentary which is generally left out, perhaps mostly, in great majority of cases, by other Muslim scholars previous to here. So, as I told you, this should be really subject of rather than and this forum is not fit for this.
In the Quran, I can't remember somewhere mentions a book that is in heaven, of which the Quran, some Muslims say, is a copy of this book in heaven, or some kind of reduction of it. Can you explain what it means?
It says Ilom Mahfuz. In reality it means that the Holy Book is guaranteed for all times to come to be kept pure and free from all adulteration. This is a guarantee given by the Holy Quran. Now it may happen that the copies which we have may have some sort of interpolation or maybe unconscious or maybe conscious by mischief mongers. So that attempt at least can be made, and then those such attempts have been made previously. According to some information, I am not very sure of its authenticity, but the report is there that some time ago there was a Jewish attempt to interpolate the Holy Quran and circulate the copies of this interpolated version. Also, we know certain Muslim sects, some sects among the Shiites in particular, have a belief that the Holy Quran was not 30 chapters, it was 40 chapters, and the 10 chapters which dealt with the question of spiritual inheritance of prophethood or the Imamate by Hazrat Ali, and other verses containing his superiority over others, and subject of Shiaism in general. All these 10 chapters have been removed from the Holy Quran known as complete. So there is in Lucknow and some other parts of India officially such copies which are held to be the complete Holy Quran by Shia. So that attempt is made not only by the enemies of Islam, but by those who believe in Islam. So such possibilities are there. But this gives us guarantee that Ilom Mahfuz, that Allah has this preserved with Him. Law does not mean ordinary law as we know it. Law means with some system available with Allah, the recording system which he has. This book is recorded completely, dot to dot, and whatever attempts will be made, they will be frustrated and the book will remain intact. Now this can also apply to the efforts of the people to change its meaning. Number one, the first part of the answer which I am giving, I come back to it, that all the attempts which will be made by the people to change this text will be frustrated, and even if they remove the entire Holy Quran from us, the Holy Quran as such will remain preserved with God, and he will see to it that it does not disappear. I mean, that is the general message, not that it will happen. In fact, it is just a guarantee and surety that it cannot happen, that's all. But the second part of my answer to which I am coming now, that it keeps happening in a way that generally people don't know that we are interpreting the Holy Quran, but it's being interpreted. For instance, a verse of the Holy Quran is wrongly interpreted. Well, there may be some genuine innocent mistake, and the wrong done may not be very great. Maybe it's just difference of opinion, this is also right and that is also right, that sort of thing. But occasionally, not only occasionally, very often happens that some fundamentals of Islamic faith are concerned, and a verse of the Holy Quran is given a twist by certain believers in the direction of their beliefs, and in other direction by the holders of some other beliefs. And they both attribute their beliefs to the Holy Quran, while their beliefs are hostile to each other, contradictory to each other. So this is the sort of interpolation which has been going on and on for centuries, until 72 sects came into being in a grading process. Some mistakes were committed here and some there in various centuries, and the sects kept on being born based almost always on the Holy Quran, sometimes on difference of opinion on the explanation of tradition of the Holy Prophet, but the Holy Quran was generally involved. So the Law Mahfuz is a message that its meaning is kept pure and guarded with Allah, and Allah will see to it that when an attempt is made to distort the meaning of the Holy Quran, something will be done by Allah to put it back into its original position. That is, the true meaning will be guarded and explained to the people. That has been happening also throughout the Muslim history. Not only Mujaddideen, but also some other great scholars of renown have been sent by Allah, who whenever such attempts to distort the meaning of the Holy Quran was made, countered it by starting a movement against it and putting the things back in order. So that also is observable. It's a phenomenon which is very visible. Now, another question arises from this situation. All right, the attempt was made, yet the damage was done. Yet all the Muslims did not agree to that rectified version, or the true version, not rectified, but the true version of the Holy Quran, and the meaning as far as it was discarded remained operative in certain regions and in certain sects. So what is the answer to this? The answer to this is simply this, that Lawh Mahfuz does not mean that no distorted mind would conceive a different thing of the Holy Quran than actually it is said. It does not mean that. It only means, and the guarantee means, that if some distorted mind or somebody, due to lack of knowledge, inadvertently, has explained the Holy Quran in a wrong way, which may mislead the people, then Allah will see to it that a holy scholar guided by him, La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun, in an illustration of this verse, would appear and would also give the correct version to the world. Now it is then for the world to follow either the correct version, which is more logical and sound, and according to the rest of the Holy Quran, it fits in the whole of the Holy Quran perfectly. So either it will be an open question. Either people would accept this version or the other one, but nobody will be misled because of a lack of two versions, the true meaning. So all through history, the true meaning of the Holy Quran will be kept alive, even if by a very small minority. That is the guardian of the Holy Quran. And this has been observed throughout the history of Islam. Even such views like the life of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, they have no unanimity in history, no continuation. There have been people born at various ages which have been voted by Jamaat Ahmadiyya, who against a large majority of people held this view that no, the Holy Quran means Jesus Christ is dead, and we believe in the death. Directly or indirectly, holy Muslim scholars have been propounding this view. So this is an illustration of how the Holy Quran is guarded. Lawh-e-Mahfuz does not mean that it is somewhere in the heaven, a material place, a space of 3 dimensions, in which there is a place on which the Holy Quran is written and Allah refers to that. It doesn't mean that. What it means is that it is guarded in the heaven, that is to say, people can't touch it. No finger can reach there. No interpolator can interfere into that system of Allah, which is created for the guarding of the Holy Quran, both in the form and text as well as in the meaning. So in the end, when there was so much to be done, so much has been attributed, Allah, according to His promise, sent the promised Messiah to carry out the work of removing all misunderstandings from the Holy Quran and presenting it in the original purity. This is exactly what Jamaat Ahmadiyya is here for. This is an illustration. Allah has kept His promise, and the Lawh-e-Mahfuz is repeatedly referred to, and the true meaning is revealed to the people below, so that the Holy Book remains intact, well guarded, clear of all interference, free from all interference and impurity till the end of the time. That is the true meaning of Lawh-e-Mahfuz, free Lawh-e-Mahfuz.
Answer the question in your first one.
You wanted to ask 2 questions as far as I remember.
The first one was not
Exactly. So you like Bashir Yad, etc. You have joined that school of the 80s. Alright.
Well, I met a friend recently, just last week, who's studying Arabic studies. And I just started talking to him about historical aspects of Islamic history. And he was saying, well, as far as the Muslim history is concerned, the period of around the life of the Holy Prophet was upon him, and even up till the 8th century, which is the 2nd century of Islam.
2nd century?
Yeah. There's really just virtually nothing as far as historical evidence is concerned around that period. Everything that's been written about the history of that period has been written after that period by Muslims and others. And he was obviously an atheist. He's a student, a graduate student, his first degree in Arabic studies, including a bit of Islamic.
I think he's a totally different author.
This is why I came to ask.
I tell you, first of all we have to ask him what he means by recording of history. If he means written history, then most of the world history will totally disappear. Written history at the time when the history was enacted, that is the condition he is laying upon the history of Islam, that it must be fulfilled for it to be authentic. Is that not the spiritual question? So, alright, go back to the history of any world government, and you will find very few instances where you will find an analyst who is recording the history while it is being enacted. In very great majority of cases, no history was preserved at the time when it was being created. Of the largest, biggest, most important and momentous actions, occurrings and happenings of the world, this is true, that they were not recorded at the time when they were taking place. And people related them, of course. So some of those who related them were later on also recorded in black and white. This is true. But to find someone who keeps a record along with the events, that is a very rare phenomenon in history. So according to this standard, there will be no proof even of the existence of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him. This is why some of the Christian scholars have not only maintained, they have produced literature on this. They have written books that Jesus Christ is a myth. Nothing took place. No crucifixion, no Saint Paul, no others. All this was created later. Maybe Saint Paul they agree, but one of those who created Jesus Christ. But they say there is no historical evidence of the apostles being there and these events taking place, and they refer to the Roman history and it's totally lacking. No mention in the annals of Roman history of that time, of that area and region, records the events of Jesus Christ or his existence. So they say there is no proof, he was just a myth. So they go further and say Moses was also a myth. There is completely no historical record to prove that such a man as Moses lived. And the mention about Moses and his what happened with Pharaoh is found in the history of Egypt some 100 years ago, after that. Not at the time when these things were taking place. And such people who believe in this, they say, this is no proof that they are mentioned ultimately in a secular record of history, because by that time the Jews had gained influence and they had spread their stories, so they became a part of the secular history as well. But history, according to their judgment, should have been recorded much earlier, because these events were of such momentous importance. So tell him all this and first find out what is the criteria. What are the criteria for preservation of history? If there are any criteria, what dependence, what reliability, then you can of course say that Islamic history is the most reliable history of all the history recorded in man. Because of all other, leaving all other things apart, the Holy Quran itself preserves the fundamental part of Islamic history. And all the hostile writers on Islam, that is to say even the hostile scholars who have studied Islam and are called Orientalists, they have admitted this fact without disagreement anywhere. I mean, between them again. They are unanimous that the whole history of the Holy Quran, which the Holy Quran preserves, is entirely, totally dependable. Because it is impossible for a man to pronounce to the world that he is from God and Allah is revealing things to him. And while he is building a community entirely on faith, he begins to add life into it. And while the people of his time know that these things did not happen, and he is telling them that yes, they did happen. So because it's logically impossible, so we have to agree that whatever historical records are preserved by the Holy Quran, they are dependable. So many holy wars are mentioned, many events of importance are recorded by the Holy Quran. The very history of the prophecy, how it started, the history of its preservation, all this is mentioned in the Holy Quran. And the Exodus, ultimately migration from Mecca to Medina, and other events, important historical events which took place, the war of Badr, the war of Uhud, the war of Hudaybiyah, return to Mecca, Sulh Hudaybiyah. There is an important event, even the incident of Uhud, that false allegations against Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa radhiyallahu anha. He stopped to revive even smaller incidents like what happened with Zayd bin Harith and what happened with his wife and why and all that. Still he says there is no recording. There should be some limit to ignorance by a man who has this as his subject and is totally ignoring the Holy Quran.
Wasn't ignoring it. I think his what he was leading up to was that although there are these sources of books and trying to dismiss them, he said it's all jumbled up with unreliable hadith, for example. The many false ones which are known to be false.
Of course, but in history this is a regular phenomenon.
So he said, what can you rely on?
Even still, you have Islamic history is more reliable because if you go back to other histories, they have to believe entirely in the jungle. And there is no way even to find which is reliable and which is not reliable. It is only the Islamic history which has an internal system of preservation and which can be judged by scholars and investigated, and those rules and regulations which ultimately decide which one is pure and which one is fake were made very early in Islamic history by the scholarly people. And they are so wonderful rules, so reliable rules, and so critical of what is wrong, that such rules were never thought of by any historian in the world previously or even after. Look at the strict rules applied by Imam Bukhari for the selection of the right from the wrong, and by other great traditions, and search for such rules or even a shadow of such rules in other parts of history. They will be totally lacking. Even the reliability of the scripture cannot be compared with the Holy Quran at all. In comparison to the history of tradition, the history of scripture falls much below, much below par. It should be rated third as compared to authenticity. First, the Holy Quran, it has no comparison. No such book is found which is so authentic. Approved even by the enemies. Second, the tradition. The strict standards applied are such as have never been applied before in the history of mankind, anywhere in the world. This is why they begin to see that some traditions are false. Not that it is their discovery. It is the effort of the Muslim scholars who were so keen to preserve the correct versions of traditions and separate from the wrong ones, that it is they themselves who provided the world with that method of approach and system through which you will safe right from the wrong. So because in other histories no such system came ever into being, so they never do it. So whatever has been handed down to us is done, pure done. We don't know how to rely on this and why to reject that and so on and so forth. So because Islamic scholars themselves have sifted the system, has created a system of sifting things. So they have started talking against it. You know, you have to understand how Hadith was kept, was preserved, and how Muslim scholars themselves spent such labor, such immense labor in the way in the cause of that preservation. There were people who were entirely devoted to this cause and took so much pain for the verification of sometimes a single tradition. They took so much pain that they had to travel for hundreds of miles in those days, for months together, even for years. They would not be satisfied about a tradition that it is worthy of inclusion into their book until they had finally satisfied themselves after putting the entirely, after putting that tradition to the touchstone of their own creation, which was very strict. Hazrat Imam Bukhari, whenever a tradition was told him, was conveyed to him, you know, even if the subject matter was good, but according to the Holy Quran, was not paradoxical to any other tradition known. For instance, even if it was said to him that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in some place that whoever speaks the truth and truth alone, nothing but the truth, he will enter Jannah, he will enter the heaven. Now such a tradition is such an innocent tradition that it should be accepted ordinarily without putting it to any censure. But not Imam Bukhari. He would go on pursuing it until he would find the source, the original source from where it started, and judge the standard of that source, whether the source is reliable in any way or not. And the standard was so strict that these people who are now talking, they can never imagine that such strict standards could be applied to anything in the world. A person who relates a tradition of the Holy Prophet, but is known to have indulged in fits, sitting indulging in loose talk, any time in his life, his tradition will be rejected as second rate or third rate, not worthy of reliance. Even if these traditions were included in books, a censure was labeled on them, it is still preserved. And there were people who devoted all their lives verifying the authenticity of all the links between the preserver of a tradition and the one who reported it from our Rasulullah. Each link is not only preserved, but his entire history is preserved. And yet they say Islamic history is untrustworthy. Take any tradition quoted by Hazrat Imam Bukhari or Hazrat Imam Malik or Hazrat Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal or Imam Tirmidhi or any of the Siyasita Imams. Quote any name mentioned there as one of the links. And there are books prepared by Muslim scholars who will tell you who that person was, where he was born, whether he did meet the person forever in his life from which he reported the matter or not, what was his way of life, whether he was found guilty of any moral offense any time in his life, whether normally he was a very responsible person or a man who would indulge in things and things. So such strictures are preserved about every person. So when a hadith is quoted, why should you be in doubt about the reliability? each and single person who was involved in the quotation of tradition, his name, his father's name, his family background, his history, his way of life, religion, if he had any other before Islam, everything is preserved. And this is what we are so certain of Islamic history, as no people on earth can ever be certain of any history in the world. Yes, please.
Have been considering ways of approaching the youth of Western countries concerning the faith, and to approach them on their own terms and on grounds that they would find interesting.
You formed a team at last, very good. Here or even before that you met?
Here.
Here, right. So don't let him slip out. He was searching value for you. Discuss the team at your things and exchange notes on the subject. Between the Canadian dialogue and the British dialogue, and that's the object. So before leaving, we meet him and everyone.
Just until at my place. He just joined at my place.
We started our discussions. So one aspect of the youth of the Western countries, which is quite apparent, is their trend towards alcohol and drugs to find a type of happiness and fulfillment. And I would like to ask you for some advice as how we can explain to these youths to change this means of happiness and fulfillment from alcohol and drugs to treading along the true and straight path to Allah and attaining nearness to Allah.
There can't be given a general rule, a thumb rule which could apply to every case. Every case has to be taken up on its merit. Only you should understand the fundamental cause for all these disturbances. And without understanding the fundamental cause, you will not be able to deal any case, not to mention each case, The fact is that this inclination to drug addiction or alcoholism has basically some disturbance within the psyche. A perfectly satisfied, not even perfectly, somebody who is not injured within, who has a cause for reaction or revolt, will not indulge in these things. It is not just an ordinary pursuit for pleasure. They know the dangers involved. They have been so much publicized by television and other news media. They see people around them suffering so heavily, destroying their own lives ultimately. Yet they go for it. That means their inner disturbance is of a very high order. And you have to reach that. These people are suffering. For some reason or other, they are not happy with the society, with what they have inherited by way of civilization. They are yearning for something which has been eluding them. So you have to reach that spot and begin your journey from there. Otherwise, you will not be able to attract them even to the extent of listening to you. First you listen to them. Find out their history, why they were disturbed, how they started, their views on life. And as they tell you, if you have a sympathetic ear for them, gradually you will begin to learn of something which is pure sympathy. A sympathy can be just in terms of slogans or even principles, doctrines, or a general diffused feeling of sympathy. But the sympathy of which I am talking about is something which comes from contact with the suffering. It is a completely different thing. It is so intense and so moving that it involves you. So for such people to whom you want to improve or to relieve from such suffering, it is very important for the person who attempts this not to have a general relationship, but to have a close personal relationship, have a personal involvement in such a person. That will come after you have known him and after you have probed into his heart and found out what his views are, why he is suffering, why he took to such things as drugs and so on. Now, in that process, you will find some people who are hollow, who have no depth, they're careless, they are the product of a criminal society, and immediately you should withdraw your steps from them, because they are not a fit fodder for your precious time. That should be spent in better directions. This is exactly the meaning of a saying of Jesus Christ which has been much misunderstood. That food for children should not be wasted on swine, for instance. Something of that nature has been said. It is not in reality, if you go into the depth of that declaration, it is not a discourteous declaration about the sinner. It is a direction for his own followers, that choose the person on whom you are spending your labors. Maybe there are better people on earth who are being deprived by your goodness because you are wasting it on certain people on whom the goodness will be wasted anyway. So when you approach such people and want to probe for the reasons working behind this facade and go deeper into that, in the same process you will be able to judge their work. Some among them will be found to be truly right-minded people who are suffering because of no ill will on their part to begin with, and they are in a stage where they could be retrieved. So start working on them according as they open their windows to you, and then take up their hand and analyze the things for them, help them out, and then tell them that there are other ways of thrills and happiness, much better and much more lasting than these. And the happiness which is created by good and the thrill which is created by good is of a very high order and lasting thing. It has no after effects, no hangovers. So we are not mad, we are enjoying our life. We are not choosing a life of asceticism and boredom. Islam does not speak of that. Islam speaks of high values, lasting values, without any bad effects. So we call you to have true happiness, lasting happiness. There is something can be illustrated which I have been telling. A very interesting thing happened once in the lifetime of a saint who became involved in the creation of another saint in Islam. How it happened is a very interesting anecdote recorded by a book which devotes to the incidents of the important incidents in the lifetime of the Muslim saints. Kitab al-Awliya is the name of the book. It records a very interesting incident which is so full of meaning and it has a lasting value, so it should be remembered by us and produced on the right place. This can be used and by way of illustration when you discuss things which is the same like you have just mentioned. A Muslim saintly person, or just ordinary but saintly, right-hearted person, he was passing by a mosque when there was no prayer time, and he observed a strange thing happening on the doorsteps of the mosque. A boy was arranging a thorn and fixing a thorn in the shoes of somebody in a manner that when that person should return from the mosque and try to wear the shoe, it would penetrate right across the through if it could. I mean, it would hurt where it should hurt. So he was seeing to it that there is no miscarrying of this operation, and the fall does pierce his foot. And having done that, he walked him quietly, silently. He ran away and hid in the bathrooms. All the mosques are provided with bathrooms. And the way they are built, you can always walk for the bathroom if you want to, because they are built generally on the side of the mosque. So when he had done this, completed this operation, this man walked into the mosque and approached the boy and said, "Look here, don't be afraid, I want to just give you an ordinary talk. Just listen to me, don't be afraid, be scared of me. I have watched you doing this, I know what you did, but tell me why." He said, "I guess I know the answer to. You want a thrill. Some sort of thrill. You are bored with this, ordinary life and you want some sort of hit so that you could enjoy it so thoroughly. So this is the way I agree. But there is another way of getting the same thrill, of a different nature, which will be so superior to this one and so lasting, no hangover and no parting suffering." The boy got interested because it was a very interesting talk. He said, "What is it?" He said, "If you have some money, put that money, remove the phone." Because he judged from the shoes that the shoes belong to a very poor person. He said, maybe at this time it is not a prayer time, he has gone in for begging from Allah for food. Try this. And this boy did try this. He put some money in the shoes. And when that man came out, that transformed the whole life of that boy from then on. When he was wearing the shoes, he felt the money. And this was exactly what had happened as he was connected by that gentleman who was walking along, the saintly person. Then he started praying to Allah in a way, praising Him, extolling Him. What a wonderful word we have, I was praying and here it is. He has fed me from my shoes. That is an idiom in some languages, to be fed from the shoes, from where one could least expect. And this moved that boy so intensely, so deeply, and so lastingly, that from then on he was a transformed person. He was later included in the that book which deals with the holiest of the holy people of Islam. So that incident relates how he came into being, how a saint was created. So such incidents can be told to these people in appropriate manner whenever you think the atmosphere is right. Tell them, look here, we know you want thrills, but thrills can be had in a different direction, which is much more lasting, much better for humanity, for the ultimate creation of a beautiful, wonderful, peaceful society in the world, and so on. So by knowing each person, by delving deep into him, by knowing his background, you will be able to see ways, Allah will open ways for you, where you can rectify him if it is in store for him, if he is really worthy of rectification.
I ask another question?
Yes. Two or not have become normal now. You should ask only for a fact.
There are many different types of atheists, but the most common I've found is one that is an atheist by default. They've never found a religion that interests them or satisfied any of their answers. And I would ask some advice as to how I should approach these types of people.
The atheist, again the same would be the approach as I have mentioned with regard to your first question. There is no fundamental difference. The fact is that atheism is negation of God, and negation of God could be for thousands of reasons. each one has his own reason. If you start talking to him about the existence of God in your own way, maybe an argument after argument is rejected by him because he is not interested and he is not, within his power to verify those arguments and things which are based in things in which he is not interested at all and so on. So I found that experience that with an atheist, you don't start first. You use the strategy used by Hazrat Moses when he confronted the so-called magicians. So when he was asked whether you will throw first your trick, they thought was a trick, or shall we? He said, you please go ahead and first come out with your tricks, then I will follow later. So that gave him such a wonderful advantage. If that had not happened, the beauty of that stalk which turned into python could not have been observed by the people in that way. The impact could not have been created, the drama could not have been created. So that has a lasting lesson for those who go into preaching. Always try to listen to the point of view of your opponent so that you can judge him better. You know his arguments and their weaknesses and then you start. So with the atheist it's doubly important. You find out why they don't believe in God, what is the reason. Now they may say because there is no reason in believing in God. So at least something is covered, some ground is covered. Then you can ask him, such a person, if this is the answer. Alright, if that is the reason why you don't believe in God, could you conceive of any reason which would convince you of the existence of God? What sort of reason is required? We don't know. So you name the reason and then we'll start. So if he names the reason, then the dialogue will be meaningful and purposeful. Because he would have, barred the way of escape for himself. Otherwise, this is generally observed that when you come out with your own reasons, if you appear to be convincing to such a person, he always escapes by saying, I don't believe in such reasons, Generally this happens. And halfway he will reject the argument because he knows he is afraid that ultimately he is going to be conquered. So ask him first, why not tell me the type of reason which would convince you? If he is a scientific man, maybe he comes out with a scientific answer. Or declares to you that I am a physicist, for instance, and in the laws of physics, the development of physical laws, I do not observe signs of existence of any creator. And I feel from the study of physics that there are natural laws automatically happening and there is no need for any foreign interference because there is no need and there is no presence felt. So I think there is no God. That could be a simple answer. So now you know that he is a physicist, and then from the point of view of a physicist, you approach if you know physics. But if you don't know physics, then you will have to write home to someone who can give him a reason why God should be believed from the point of view of physics. If you have read, at least if you are not a physicist, like I am not a physicist, but you have read something of physics and something of people who are highly respected in the world of physics, then you could have thought of Einstein, for instance, and told him, was not Einstein a physicist? He was very much so, but he thought otherwise. His influence was different from yours. So that means this objection is hocus pocus, come think of something else. because this is not reliable in Bodo argument. Because a man of the standing of Einstein sees otherwise. He sees the law of physics in such harmony, in such beautiful balance, that he believes that there is beauty everywhere, and most of his discoveries are based on this fundamental belief in there being a perfect beauty in nature and natural laws. And beauty means balance, not chance. Haphazard creation cannot create beauty. Beauty means organization and balance. So this is how he came upon the theory of relativity, both the special and the general theory of relativity. Because his belief in beauty was so perfect and so wonderful. And this is why he said, I believe in God. But his God was the God of the physicist, who had not come into relationship with him. If God observed from some distance, like you observe a point of beauty farther away from you, you can't reach it. But at least he realizes that such a thing does exist. Had he come across an enemy scholar, for instance, who also knew his language, who could have brought him closer to the God who does exist and also come into contact with human beings. He had a frame of mind that I'm not certain he would have accepted in the God which we see from the Islamic point of view. Because he was reasonable, his own mind was beautiful because of the balance. So physics has started speaking of different things. And again you can quote another physicist, a Nobel laureate, whose essay has been published in American Scientist, Scientific American. And he speaks of the concept of black holes and where they ultimately led to, and how they came upon the concept of the Big Bang, and how relating these phenomena the scientists of the modern world have come to realize that there is a definite age of this universe. It's not limitless. Everything started from a certain cross-section of time, if you can call time. Time itself is a very complex thing. Using the day term, the existence of things is not timeless. It started at a definite juncture of history. And from then on, it started evolving and spreading. And the universe is still spreading from then on. Now that event, according to this great physicist, has proved something to the world of which previously a physicist was shy of speaking. That is the existence of God. He explains in a language which can be well understood by the physicists, because he himself is a physicist. He says that when first the discovery of that expanding universe was made by Doppler's shift, the applying of the phenomena of Doppler's shift in 1920-21. And when first it was observed by Einstein, the first reaction of Einstein was, he reports, oh no. Now we will fix, you will have to believe in a real God now. Previously he did not talk in that language and in those terms. He understood the message, that you prove the beginning of the universe in the way it has been proved. And you cannot do away with the concept of a God who is responsible for that Big Bang. Why? He himself speaks of this. And he ends up his essay most beautifully. He says, I will avoid all detail now. He says that our case is like that. Our people who were sitting 200 years ago together discussing God. Not discussing godlessness. There was no war, nothing. These were the advanced scientists of that age, 200 years ago. And a priest passed by and said, look here, everything was created. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your effort. Everything was created by God. And this is a simple answer. Why don't you believe in it? They rejected the suggestion and poo-pooed him and started the journey of research and investigation and exploration. So after 200 years of labor put into this, and after exploring all possible avenues of existence, ultimately they ended up their journey right on the same spot from where they had started, and there was the priest standing still there and saying, didn't I tell you that everything was created by God? He said, we have found ourselves to be exactly in that position. After making this detour away from religion and the existence of God, after 200 years we have returned to exactly the same spot to observe ourselves and support the view of that priest, that yes, you were right. There is a creator who created all this. This is also the language of physics. Again, you could quote to him the language of another physicist who discovered the phenomena of energy being packed in a bundle and kept in a bundle without any material existence other than the energy itself. Just the energy found in an organized bundle. And that was such a fantastic thing at that time that it was hard for people to believe in it. Because that means a soul could exist separate from material bondage. A type of energy could be organized without requirement of its dependence on material form. Angels, for instance, all other things. They could be just that thing, that phenomena. Now, this was a very great discovery. And that discovery was followed and pursued by the scientists. And today it is being employed in so many modern devices which you daily use. And you don't know whether this phenomena has been employed. That soul like thing is created, entirely energy formed in a sort of organization in the bundle. Japan has advanced in this science so much that now they are creating this for the future world, for the future of the world. They are using it in computer technology and other things. So, Silton or something is the name. You know, you are a physicist, aren't you? Marine? What is this called? Silton? This bundle of energy. Huh? Soliton. Soliton, I'm talking about Soliton. This was first discovered by someone who was towing a boat along the bank of the river, bank of a lake. And it was a horse-towed boat. He was walking along the river, and at one time he stopped, and he was surprised to find that the energy which was created in the form of waves left behind the boat, they were not left behind like they should be left behind. The boat stopped and they kept on moving as if the boat was still moving ahead. And across the boat and even they turned the corner. So that was the most surprising thing which he observed, and he reported it to some scientists. And later on the physicists did observe such a phenomena where an energy, a form of energy, can be internally organized and it can exist independent of the source which is creating it. Like the boat. The motion of the boat was creating that form behind it. That form behind it could not have existed independently and gone across beyond the boat and retained its identity. That sowed the seed of soliton. And then the scientists not only succeeded in finding it in nature, they also created it. And they also discussed it in relation to the existence of soul. And this matter is no longer a matter to be tabooed by scientists. They have not only discussed, they have said it in so many words that after the discovery of polytron, if a religious person says that soul can exist, we have no reason to deny that on scientific basis. A phenomena has been discovered whereby energy can be found independently, without its dependence on matter. I mean, originally it was given birth by matter, and then it came into its own. So this is exactly the concept of religion about soul. It owes its origin to matter, but ultimately is free of matter and can retain that bundle. Now, there it is lasting. In the scientist's observation, that phenomena is transient, but they do not have full control over the creation of a lasting polytron. So this is the reason why they can't do it. But you can quote such a physicist and such the language of a physicist who says that yes, soul could exist. So a physicist, just a physicist, he would do the work, perform the work for you. Why to oppose a man of science while you don't know science yourself? So the best thing is to get out of the match. Find the right physicist for you. They will defend your cause. They will find the cause of reason for you in a language that is well understood by the opponents. There should be real policy in every field of science. You will find such people who have taken up the cudgel for religion and for the existence of God. In every field of science. Go to the right person, collect a record of them, and then you are well armed to face any challenges from atheists belonging to any branch of science. Thank you.
Then the same question is it possible for the soul from the entity that it may exist for more than one places? More than one places. If the soul is departed from my, for example, my soul, well, I don't know the nature of soul and how it is scattered, and whether it has three dimensions or four or five or whether. So how can I answer this question? For example, you see, if I'm considering my case, for example, if you do not know, how can you give me an answer of that? Alright, I want to know in such a way that if someone is sleeping, so some other body is looking at him in a dream, so it means the soul is there. So that is it. Everything there. Scientists now, scientists well,
are partially scientists because they claim themselves to be scientists and other scientists say no, they don't belong to us. The parapsychologists say they are taking research in this direction, and this is called how our body experience, OBE. And according to their research, someone can be in one place at a time, yet can have experience of another place at the same moment. So the soul, according to them, would have an experience out of body. Their claim would lead to the belief that soul is not confined to the four walls of matter, even today before death, but soul is larger than that. That is the only meaning of their research. Not that a soul can visit stars and things and return without severing its ties with body or severing the ties yet the body is alive. This is not possible. Such claims are made only by those who believe in occult sciences, occult things. But these OBE people, they have made some very interesting experiences and supported somewhat their claim. And their claim is not contrary to the religious view, so it may be right. For instance, I read about one experience in an authentic paper which is very scientific and the highest in order of authenticity and reliability. the paper said that scientific experiments were made on OBE by first familiarizing and making friendly some kitten to a person who showed such love to them. Extreme love and fondling was done by him. So that they were so used to him, so deeply attached to him that wherever he would go, they would follow. After that, they were removed to a tunnel. In that tunnel, the person didn't know where the tunnel was. It was at some distance. And there were so many corners the tunnel was taking at different points. And he was given the plan of that tunnel. All he was told was to feel his presence on that corner. And that was repeated many a time in controlled way as well as on experimental basis. And they were surprised to find that according to the law of large numbers, if you apply the law of large numbers to their finding, it was impossible for that thing to happen without there being something of the soul's presence in that particular corner. What happened was that the kitten, more often than not, would be attracted to that corner. And more kittens would come and sit there. And when the corner was transferred to, the presence was transferred, the so-called presence, to another corner, after a while, after making some errors here and there, greater number of kittens would begin to like, without knowing why, that particular corner. So, failures and successes in this regard were put to the strictest test according to the law of large numbers, and their mathematicians were involved. They were asked which number of cases where presence is felt as against the cases where presence is not felt would be required to establish the case beyond doubt, so that nobody could say that out of chance this is happening. So they gave them a formula, scientifically, mathematically worked out formula, not imaginative formula. And in every test they applied that formula, worked it out in equations, and came out with the result. And that is very surprise. That showed that somehow that presence can be felt. How far away, it is not yet determined. But this is determined that that person was not dead. He was not dreaming. He was conscious. And it was not his soul separated or severed from his body that was being felt, but it only established, if it established anything, that a soul has a larger presence, not confined within the four walls of our body, but even across. So that presence can be spiritually felt by some. And if that is true, there is nothing against it from the religious point of view, that may be true. Then some of the phenomena of the effect of holiness could be explained in these terms. Why Muhammad had so deep and such big impacts all around him? It was not just a phenomena of his presence and psychological working of the people's mind. Then it would be considered that the presence of his holy soul, his being, was beyond his body, and people were influenced by that presence. And then we will understand why Sobat Salihin is required. It's not just transfer of thought, but the presence which works wonders in that cases. And it is also true of evil people. More powerful and evil presence is, greater would be the damage done. That could be explained. I mean, this is not something which is leading only to one conclusion. There could be more than one conclusion. But this is a possible conclusion. Another conclusion is, or maybe, that it is not the presence of the soul there, it is something which transfers one's thoughts across to other people's minds. Like we feel if the clairvoyance, like some people can transfer what they think to others. And this is a common phenomenon, I mean everyday experience, everywhere, that sometimes when you are concentrating on a thought, that thought is transferred without words, without any other physical signs to the people around you. So that the same incident can be interpreted in a completely different way. That is to say, that maybe the person when he was concentrating on that corner and also thinking of his favorite kitten, the kitten's mind conceived that thought which was taking shape in the mind of the sender of that message. And they somehow got attached to that corner which was being conceived all the time, pictorially, by that person. So that is another explanation. But the fact that this does happen is observed not only by those people, but by such ordinary experiences as well, but also by some very authentic holy men. For instance, once an Ahmadi young boy studying in a college came to Khalifatul Masih Awwal and confessed to him that since last some time atheistical views or tendencies are appearing within me, in my mind, and I seem to be inclined to atheism, and I can't resist it and I can't help it. So Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Awwal Razila Ta'ala, the first caliph, he told him to change his seat. I know you know this, but I'm telling to the others now. He told him to change the seat and explain. He said maybe the person who sits next to you in the college room, in the study room, he is an atheist and his views are being transferred to your mind. And he changed the seat, and exactly this is what happened, that after that the thoughts disappeared totally. So when Islam says that be in the vicinity or closeness to people who are holy, Salihin doesn't mean holy in the sense of saints like this, but remember the right side of people, right-minded people, righteous type of people. Every Ahmadi has to be an answer to that description. So be close to them and you will gain spiritually. Not just by talk, that also helps, of course. Mainly this is this has a most important role to play, conversation and things and discussions. But Islam doesn't mention that. It just mentions closeness. So either what you are thinking of the soul being larger, that is one thing, or the transfer of thoughts without words, that is responsible for this. But something of that nature does happen, that will happen. Yes, please, Nasir, Devi Sahib.
So, one incident has happened with me, and that was the companion of the Prophet Musa, the same nature. I came home late from Mushaya, about 11:30. No, it is in 1950 or 49, Lahore. And everybody was on the top of the roof and sleeping in my house, so I went to my bed, and when I put my head on the pillow, I felt awful pain in my, and became so intense. You know what? Pain, I didn't know. Yes, please allow me that I come to it. And it was so intense
that it will kill me in a few seconds. When I try to observe what it is, suddenly pain stopped and came to my mind that I should go to the Sayyid Mustafa and press his legs, which I never did in my life before. And I said to myself, this is a foolish thought. It is about 12:30, and if I go there, somebody might take me as a robber or something. I shouldn't go there. And then I tried to sleep again. The same thing happened. So I had to fight with myself about half an hour. And then I became so much compelled with something that I really quietly escaped, and nobody should notice where I am going, and left the whole building unlocked. And I went to the government building, and the door was open, and when I got near to the Hafiz's room, then I heard that he was really, I should say, with pain, and it was dark, and I went inside, sat on his bed, started his legs and pressing. After a few seconds or few minutes, I would hear the tasbih very loudly, and it's still loud. And then he said, after a few minutes more, that we were praying to God that you should come. Me especially, he knows my name in the dark, which I never spoke and I never said Assalam. And then after about 10 minutes he said, your mother might, if she will be awake, she will be wondering where you are from. So I want right now, you go. And all in all, then I spoke to him first. Now, the logical explanation would have been to me if I would have pressed his leg before. But he never knew my hand pressure, he never knew my hand. Because that was never happened in my life. I never touched his leg, he never knew, and never thought came to my mind before. That day, I understood the other thing, but today, you have made it clear scientifically.
I have to make it clear once again.
This is a religious phenomenon. This is where God is directly involved.
But
When he heard the prayer of Hazrat Hafiz Sahib, and his angels conveyed this message to you in a very special manner.
Yes, sir.
And also he made it known to Hazrat Hafiz Sahib that it was Nasir who was there, because he was praying exactly for you.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is a religious phenomenon, not a parapsychological world.
But this is
Exactly corrected again. But back to your original view, please.
But this is exactly happened.
Yes,
And it is
this happens. I mean, this has happened so many times with Ahmadis. Everywhere in the world there would be Ahmadis who record such a thing, where a prayer is answered exactly in the way as it was asked for, and in a manner that there could be no other explanation. Or
I felt physical pain actually.
You know, it is all जैसी रूह वैसे फरिश्ते हैं. You should have listened to the call without feeling pain. Even after feeling pain, you were hesitant. So Allah chose the right way for you. Yes. No, just a minute. Somebody from there first wanted to ask a question. Was it you? But after you are the first. Did you want to ask? Yes, please. We'll give you 5 minutes, don't worry.
It relates to an event that took place on Awesome Redwood. And not so long ago, we had to elect a number of our students in London. And we came stuck because there were 3 rules that were passed down to us. 3 rules of electing somebody. One that by conscience you go to elect somebody who you think will do the job as a responsible person. And the second is that everybody must vote. And the third is that you cannot vote for yourself. Now there was 2 people nominated, and there was one person who was nominated. He said he had to, we said you have to vote. And then he cannot vote for himself. But I said, I don't think the other person is responsible enough to do the job. So I cannot vote for him. So we couldn't come to any answer. So what would we do in that situation?
You know, this does happen, of course, but if one is too idealistic, only then it happens. When it is said that you should give your vote to a suitable person, it does not mean that you must give your vote to a perfect person, because the concept of perfection is elusive. It's impossible to find Hazrat Rasul Kareem in every situation, for every task, everywhere in the world. That is perfection as far as human beings can reach the perfection on earth. So it's impossible. So if that is your idealism, that you must choose a perfect person, then you can never vote to anyone, for anyone. I don't think he was honest. I don't think he was good for idealism. No, why did you say, just listen. You only think in comparative terms. If an office is vacant, it has to be filled. And it has to be filled by people of that vicinity for which that office is meant, in a certain area. And when you are not given a choice not to vote, then obviously you have to vote for someone. So when you vote for someone, then you vote in comparative terms, in relative terms. It means that although I should have liked a much better person, if not a perfect one, much better person, but the available stuff is so poor, so I have to choose the relatively better person. So you go for it, there's no harm. After all, in terms of relativity, out of 20 people, at least one would be comparatively more suited to the job, or really not.
But there was another person, but that wasn't himself.
You can't vote for yourself, sir. That is also given. So you can't break the rule.
So it's not really ideal in the rule, but the rule is not really ideal, but
the rule is that you do not vote for yourself. That is one of the given factors. Vote for someone else who, according to you, this should be read, is the best among the people available to that. And that often word, that rule should be understood in this light. Otherwise it is impossible to vote for anyone.
So he could have proposed name of a suitable person. He was free to propose, and he could propose the name of a suitable person.
He said no, he doesn't think any other person. Suppose someone is genuinely convinced that he is the only person fit for the job. But the rules say you can't vote for yourself, you can't propose your own name. And you must also vote. You can't abstain either. And the people around him are so much below his own standard that it's a pity to waste his vote. So what can he do? That is the situation he described.
So what on the other than they would have been for him to nominate somebody else?
Nominate somebody else?
The third person.
And there is no such third person who is better than you. That is the situation.
I don't think he called on the third person. I mean, those lines, see.
No, I was being rather crude in my explanation. Instead of chewing my words, I was rather more straightforward. But this is exactly the situation or a similar situation to which I have described to a lesser degree. That prevails. And this is not just a meaningless question you have put. I thank you for pointing out this, because this happens all over the world. Some Ahmadis do face this dilemma. One can't help considering himself to be a fit person for a certain job. and the rule prevents him from suggesting his own name, proposing his own name. And the other people, for that job he thinks are not capable, at least if not entirely incapable, much less capable than he himself is. In such a situation, whether it is so intense or less intense, the rule should be fully understood. The rule is, you do not vote for yourself, you do not abstain yourself, but you vote for the person whom you consider best for that particular job from among the available people. When you describe it like that, then there is no problem there. Is someone else in mind? Yes, all right. Now we come to you at last. We have more than 5 minutes left. Shall we divide it between you and
the background of the question is, I had prepared a question regarding the animals and birds. And then I thought that why should I not go back to the Holy Quran? There's something more information regarding my question. And I came across
birds and animals are also discussed in the Holy Quran.
Then I came across this passage, which I thought was before that my original question. In the Holy Quran, Surah Al-An'am, part 8, Ruku 3rd, Allah Ta'ala says, the ayat is Ya'ashara al-Jinnah wal-Insa alam ya'tikum rusul. This is ayat. I read the translation. O company of men, big and small, did not messengers come to you from among yourselves, who recited to you my signs and warned you of your meeting with me this day? They will say, we bear witness against ourselves to that effect, the light of the world beguiled them with vain hopes, and they will bear witness against them. The light of this world beguiled of them with vain hopes, and they will bear witness.
The light of this world beguiled.
B-E-Q-I-L-E-D.
Beguiled us.
Them, yes.
Beguiled them or beguiled us?
The translation I quoted from Sir Muhammad Abdullah.
What is it? Beguiled them.
Them, right, he writes them. With vain hopes, and they will bear witness against them themselves that they were disbelievers. Messengers are sent because thy God would not destroy the towns unjustly while their people have not been born. So there is another sentence, but I leave for this time. But my question ends here.
You read so many.
Everyone will rank according to his conduct. The Lord is not unmindful of that which they do. So this is the full. My question starts here. Would Hazur most kindly explain the common beliefs regarding the jinns? Secondly, in the above surah, Allah Ta'ala mentions regarding the sending of messengers among men and jinns. If we consider the common meanings of jinns, then who were the messengers apart from the men's messengers? Thirdly, Allah Ta'ala says that He does not destroy the town unjustly while their people have not been born. Those who believe that jinns are a creation other than men, do they produce evidence of those towns which were destroyed for disbelieving the jinn messengers?
First part of the question.
Would Hazur most kindly explain the common beliefs regarding the jinns?
That I have explained so many times.
Yes.
Could you spare me this time?
Secondly, in the above surah, Allah Ta'ala surah mentions regarding the sending of messengers among men and jinns.
That's right.
If we consider the common meaning of jinns, then who were the jinns messengers apart from the men messengers?
Because I do not believe in the common meaning of the jinns, so I can't answer this question. You do, so you answer this question.
I believe and don't believe.
So find a person who believes in the common meaning of it and ask him this question. He knows. Right? That's part please.
Firstly, Allah Ta'ala says that He does not destroy the towns unjustly while their people have not been born. Those who believe that jinns are a creation other than men, ask them.
That question pertains to them who believe in this, so ask them. Thank you. Lock, stock and barrel. It has been dropped. Yes, come on, Shitsa.
Good, I have 4 questions in mind. I have only one small one. There is a hadith sharif, if you have to bear witness or take oath, say in the name of Allah. Sir, what Allah took the qasam when Allah said, وَالدِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ to receive?
What hadith we are referred to is about the shape, isn't it?
That's right.
This is very simple. This has been discussed widely among the world of Muslim scholars, among various Muslim scholars, and various explanations have been put forward. But the fact is that they misunderstand the import of that hadith to which they refer, number one. Number two, they misunderstand the fundamental phenomena that the Holy Quran is first and everything else is second to the Holy Quran. So, when in the Holy Quran you find Allah bearing witness, calling for witness to heaven, stars and things. So one thing is positive, that there is nothing wrong with that. That is very obvious. In the light of this, the hadith should be understood. The hadith then would bear the meaning and then you can understand very easily. But when Allah says, I bring to witness the star, the moon, this phenomenon, that phenomenon, because He has created it. He means that if you look at these things, these silent hosts, you will begin to read certain signs within them which will lead you to the right path. This is the meaning of that witness, nothing else. Not they are speaking in favor of Allah's statement and telling you that Allah is right, is not a liar. And because the stars are bearing witness, so you believe in. Now this is not at all the case like that. You completely misunderstand the situation of that tradition. It doesn't say that you should not call to witness such signs as will prove your authenticity. In the world of evidence, this is exactly what happened, and it happened at the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every case which was brought to him was discussed on the basis of testimony. For instance, somebody's horse is stolen by someone else, and when he takes the alleged thief to the court, he proves by the signs of the steps of that horse which have a peculiarity. He says they are my witness. Will that be shirk? How could that be shirk? No Muslim scholar or no sane person anywhere in the world can call it adultery. So
So that language which is used by God belongs to this category of sign reading, of trying to understand the message of things, the import of things. That is number one. Number two, very clearly, our Sallallahu refers to such swearing where imaginary witnesses were quoted as if they were alive and they were gods. Only to that particular illustration that the least direct, where some people said, I bear witness, I swear by those stars. When an Arab said at that time, I swear by those stars, he said it entirely because those stars were held to be God by the Arabs of that time. And that witness did not mean anything other than the fact that they said those stars had been watching us. They know whether we committed this thing or did not commit it. So if we are making a wrong statement, a false statement, then let those stars strike us. This was the import of that swearing. And this is what has been described by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, idol worship. Because those stars don't mean anything as far as that particular incident is concerned. They are not related, they are not live, they were not observing the phenomena, and even if they were totally incapable of showing their wrath to that person who was telling a lie in their name. So all that was a baseless, foundationless story, a myth, which was itself founded on idolatry. That is what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam meant and discouraged. So the swearing you call swearing by Allah in the Holy Quran does not belong at all to that category. That is a scientific explanation of things, where the Holy Quran points out to such a certain phenomena of nature and says that ponder over this phenomena. Go deeper into the messages which are silently contained in that existence. And from there you will find the right path. You will be led to the right path. You will begin to know that whatever the Holy Quran is saying is correct. That is to say scientifically correct. Correct according to the nature in which you believe. So that is not the swearing of that type which has been unfortunately discussed at length by many scholars, and for hundreds of years they have been debating this issue, mostly in the wrong direction, unfortunately. Okay. So that is all. You have three more questions to ask.
Yes, sir.
All right, ask just one more. Didn't I give you to ask two questions? Did you answer? No, I gave you opportunity to ask two questions, didn't I? Three? Only one. Three parts of one. I called you on the misunderstanding that I had given him opportunity to ask two questions. He only asked one question. So you can give it. No. I'm not inviting him. I'm telling you that it was a mistake to invite you. I'm sorry, Lord. Next time you can have my understand the Holy Quran fully, one has to follow the Sunnah al-Nabwi and Hadith Sharif. I have come across with one and Sunnah and Hadith as a gentleman. As a Quran gentleman. And it is very difficult to convince him that these are essential to understand Holy Quran.
non-behalf.
So I know, I'll answer this question next time, sir. So it will require slightly longish answer. Down.